All right, great. So please, as I go through things, pop your questions into the chat. There will be a time for just more of like open Q&A after the presentation, but I just kind of want to roll through some of the key things for you to know about how radius applies for the compliance elements that you have. All right, so first off, what you're probably really familiar with already is that you can create a scope of appointment. Let me get this into full screen view. So here you can, if you've set it up already, you can generate SOA. You just click generate SOA. You can change the default language from English to Spanish. Let me admit these people. Acacia, if you could help me by allowing people to get admitted, I'd appreciate that. I've made you co-host.
Yep, I'm on it. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so here in this generate scope of appointment, you can have the default language in English or Spanish. You, if you're the assigned agent to this person, so this being the assigned agent, it will default to you as being the agent on the SOA. You can always change that if you need to, if you're booking this for somebody else. That person doesn't have a sales rep ID set up, but here if you have a default sales rep ID, which is usually your NPN number, it will just default that for you. However, in certain states like California, for example, you would need to have your California license. So that's why you can have multiple sales rep IDs. So the right one goes on your scope of appointment. The initial method of contact might be, phone or online scheduling, whatever it is, that's what goes here. But if they needed to do a walk-in, this is how you would put that in. Plans that the representative will discuss during the meeting. I'll show you this once it's generated so you can see where this lives and you can make the best determination of what you want in there. But obviously, if you know the county of the person, hopefully you see their address down there, then you can say, oh, I only have 10 organizations with 120 plans in their area. Now, the date that the appointment will be completed is now optional. If no date is set, it will be set for the date that it is signed. However, because of the 48-hour rule, you kind of need this unless it's a walk-in, right? So that's why it's still there, because otherwise our system can't show you the unsigned scope of appointments based off of that appointment date. So this is an important element that you need to have provided that within or prior to 48 hours to the appointment. Your sales rep information is pulling from the account my information section here, and the beneficiary info is here. We submit this and an email is sent automatically to that person. Now, maybe they don't have email and they say, can you just text it to me instead? Well, first off, you would need to add in a cell phone number for this person. You can't text the phone line. So we'll add that in and hit save update. Now that we have a cell phone in the cell phone field, we can go to files. And then we can see here that that's been requested. Now we could resend it via email. We could hit send text and it'll give them the link to sign that. And then you can also just open it for a signature. So if they were a walk-in, you can just hit open for signature. And that's there for them to sign. They add in all that information, they hit submit, and then it will be completed. Once it's completed, you'll see the scope of appointment details are all here, and you can also download it here. So that's that. I mean, let me show you how you would set this all up, just in case you're not familiar with it, but you go to settings, you go to email, columns, calendar, and other optional features. You scroll down and enable the electronic scope of appointments. You're going to utilize the templates that we've given you, and this is where that default plans to represent is there. You can do typed in or signature pad, but so many people have trouble with signature pads that we recommend typed in because it still counts because we're getting all of the data of where they signed it digitally. And that's like the digital signature is what's actually important. And then we have this thank you page that we have like a little, like thank you for, your scope of appointment's been received type thing. Now you can create your own landing page if you prefer and add it in there if you want to. So you could just change it to a landing page that you've created. Or if you've got a custom URL with your own website, you could type it in, right? Something like that. The other thing that we have is ACA consent forms. It's a very similar thing. If you want to enable it here, you just make sure that you have those email templates associated. And then again, have those success URLs there if you wanted to use that. Once you have completed that, you would just go down to settings and hit submit. All right. So then finally up here in account, my information, each user that's going to be doing SOAs, one, they need to fill out their contact information. It's going to have to appear on the SOA and that's how it gets pulled. Then they go to SOA. They sign here. So if I remove this signature, I can now say, that's my signature and I hit save, or you can just upload a file. Down here is where you add in those sales rep IDs. So this could be, just normally it's going to be an NPN. And then you hit that's going to be your default and you save that. But you could also have other ones as well, as you can see here. You also need to have your NPN in this information section. I know it seems like overkill, but unfortunately, you do need to have it there as well. The ACA consents pull from this section instead of that SOA tab. So put in your NPN number there as well. This is also where you'll want to add in the number of organizations and plans represented. So that way you can utilize on our email templates, you could use that little CMS disclaimer that has the holistic number of organizations and plans you represent. Let me show you what I mean by that. So, so down here, we have this little CMS disclaimer for you guys to use on your email templates. So it says, we do not offer every plan available in your area. Currently, we represent, and that's where it's pulling from that agent organizations represented from that account, my information. So each agent who's sending out this email, you might be a large agency and you might have one person who represents all plans in the area, or you have a few people who only represent 5 carriers with 73 plans. I don't know. So having this in here will generate the right holistic number for your agents. Obviously, then when you're discussing when you do the CMS disclaimer, when you're on the call with them, you'll have to give them the actual numbers based off of their county, but that's there for you. Okay. Any questions on SOA before I move on to the ACA forms, which are fairly similar? I don't see anything in the chat. Just a reminder that any questions go here. Okay. Then Noelle asks a good question. Can you send mass email for SOA? You cannot. And the reason is because you need the person's, all of their information and that appointment date because of that 48-hour rule. That does bring me to another option for you that you can see here, the unsigned scope of appointments on your dashboard. I forgot to show you this before, so let's go down here. Go down here. And then if you go to dashboard, settings, you can enable to display the unsigned scope of appointments on your dashboard and click submit, and then you'll be able to see what's unsigned. However, yeah, Catherine is also asking, could we send out SOAs now with an October date to all customers just to get it signed up front? I've been trying to review a lot of the requirements, and I believe there is like there's a date range of how long the SOA is actually good for. You could, my advice is try to get them to book it. And one of the features we have, which I was going to cover after doing the ACA one, but ACA is so similar. I'll just show this to you now. You could use the appointment scheduler to generate the to generate the like if you were going to do this for, let's say, for open enrollment 2024 is our calendar that we're going to create. You can automatically create an SOA for that specific date that they end up booking. So that's probably the best way to do as a call to action, which we will be covering on the days that we talk about automating the emails and such. Having it so that way you have an email that goes out to them saying, please book a time. And then this makes it so that way the scope of appointment gets automatically sent to them with their actual appointment date. So that's the best way to do it, in my opinion. Again, you've got to look at the timing of the expirations that they now have on these. I believe that it's 90 days. Forgive me, I've been on vacation and then I came back with a souvenir of COVID, and my mom did too. So we've been at the emergency room all yesterday. So I apologize for absolutely everything, my voice and all the craziness yesterday. Anyway, this I think is the better way to do it, in my opinion. Again, check those rules about how long of that how long your expiration period is, just so that way they don't book a time, in like late November and you're out of your window. I hope that helps. But also it has to be a one-to-one relationship, so it goes back to the right file. So one thing that some people do, they'll be like, oh, I just want to send the person the email. I want to make I want to send this SOA and I'm going to send it as an email instead. Well, you can't, because when you hit generate SOA, it's actually creating a link to this file. So that way the file attachment goes back to the right record. So it's not just a general email. And then when you, when we look at this requested thing and I hit this send text, you'll notice here's the link. That link is to their portal, to their file specifically. And that's why you can't just send a general scope of appointment out and have it go back into their file. I hope this clarifies it a little bit. For the ACA consents, if we go down here, I already showed you that. Let me just show it to you in a client file. So I'm going to hit generate ACA forms. We're going to choose which form, ACA consent or attestation. So the consent is like, that you've got permission to talk to them. So that's the before, when you're setting up the meeting. And then the attestations are all those attestations that you need to roll through and have them check off and everything. So you're going to choose which one. So usually if you're booking the meeting, it's the consent. And then once you're in the meeting, you send them that attestation. Now, I'll show you later that you can actually do this via the phone system as well. You could literally just press play on some playable disclaimers for those ACA attestations. And then they can say yes right in the recording. But if you wanted to send it out as a physical form, you could send it this way as well. You just need the agent's name and the date. It's defaulted to today. And I believe for ACA, that's the standard practice. If that's what you would want to do. And then you would hit submit. So in this case, it says the email is missing. It won't be emailed, which is fine because once I do that, if they're like, I only like to receive text messages, I hate email, it's fine. You generated it. You just need to remember to go back here and then text it to them or open it for a signature if they walked in. Any questions on the ACA attestations and consents before I give you some more news on the permission to contact stuff? No, okay. So we're hopefully going to be releasing Medicare's permission to contact as well. I've just been having a hard time trying to lock down the language because Medicare is not the easiest. They say you need this, and then they don't give you many parameters. So I've been doing my best to try to create one that will work for everyone. Yeah, so that's in progress. I just wanted to give you the heads up that we are trying to work on something that could be as simple as, choose instead of like just like scope of appointment, where we have the ACA forms for you to generate either the consent or the attestation. That's going to be, available for you. And I hope that that's available very, very soon. It probably won't be this week, but I'm hoping at least by next. Okay. Now let's get into more of the really heavy stuff with the new rules for texting and dialing. This is kind of just mind-blowing with how many things now are trying to prevent people from getting spam text messages and spam phone calls, which I, as a consumer, truly appreciate, but it really impacts your business. And so we have a bunch of best practices now. And what we're going to do is I'm not going to be able to go into absolutely everything, but I'm going to just try to talk through some things, give you some resources. So the first thing that I'm going to do is pop into the chat this link to this article. Okay. So we've built Radius on the FCC's regulations, but compliance with all SMS regulations is on you. If you are using text messaging within our system, if you abuse it, you might lose the opportunity to text through the system. It's something that you've got to be aware of, that like you could get fined, and we would pass those fines on to you if you abuse it. We haven't had that problem with our clients, other than a few things where they were not aware that they were not supposed to be doing that kind of stuff, and we were able to catch it and rectify things as fast as we could to help avoid any impact on your businesses. But please, like, this is really important to be aware of. We have the full FCC regulations linked here, and then we're going to go through this best practices for texting regulations and guidance. So this is all in that link that I just popped into the chat. Now, a couple of things. When you're texting through Radius, if you're on a basic plan, we have like either the basic plan, which, excuse me, we have the basic plan that allows for texting and allows for outbound calling, but it uses a caller ID. So the actual number that you're texting through is a default number. That really no longer works, unfortunately. So we've allowed basic plan members to purchase SMS only phone numbers, and that could really help you. So that way you have a dedicated SMS number. It's going to be very important. So next week on the client work sessions, I'll help people with all of this, but the instructions are in here in this article that I've posted into the chat. You want to make sure that you set the allowable times for text messages to your leads and clients in settings, account logo, name, and time zone settings. Set your time zone for when, set your time zone, and then set when the text messages are allowed to go out. Typical hours, I think, are 8 a.m. until 7 p.m., but you have to check your state regulations. Just make it, consider it. We already have an automatic opt-out for text messages for automated messages from the system. So, you really can't test your own phone number though in Radius. So if you're an agent and you have your cell phone trying to, send you as an agent text messages, and then you put yourself in as a test client, you're going to, and you try to text yourself as a client, but also as an agent, it's going to create a loop, and the carrier of your cell phone is going to think you are a spammer and block the number. So don't test it with your own phone number, please. Okay. So here's a little bit more information about not testing with your own phone number, but let's go more into the best practices and regulations. So you have to obtain explicit consent before sending text messages. This used to only really be for leads. I would even go a step further now and do it for your clients as well. You can create a text template and just have it so that way it's like, we just wanted to make sure that you do want to receive text messages for us. Please reply yes, and you will be kept in text messages. Please reply stop, and we will exclude you from text messages. Something as simple as that. I put it right here. So, and this again is, well, clients typically are viewed to have given consent because you've got a business relationship with them. At this point, with the new regulations, we're still advising to get explicit consent. One thing, especially when you're doing, when you're pulling in leads from lead vendors, and a lot of people do prefer text messages. So my advice is, if you have like a website form you're pushing in from your website, or a lead vendor allows you to, or allows for an opt-in for text messaging, make sure that you have an analytic field for opt-in for text in your settings. You go to settings, analytics, and you create an opt-in. And then that way you can track that consent. It will make it easier for you to track all of that stuff. And then that way you can have a supplemental automated workflow for, people who are just general new leads that have not wanted text messages. They can just have all of the email and the phone calls and whatever else. But then the people who have said yes to text messaging, they can have a supplemental automated workflow where it's sending them text messages. Please note, useful frequency and content are vital. If you text a person, hey, are you ready to talk? That is not useful. And if you say it again to them, it is too frequent. You've got to send text messages that are relevant, useful information. This is going to set you apart anyway, right? Like in our system, you can personalize those text messages so well. You can say, "Dear George, thank you for signing up on our Facebook page," because you know that they came from that lead source of Facebook. You can make it so specific that they fully understand why you are reaching out to them. So they're not going to block you. Then you can have a call to action of them clicking the link to book the meeting. And you can say, "I'll also try calling you from this phone number." So that way the phone number that you are going to call from is already in their text messages. So that way, when the call comes through to their cell phone, it's going to say, "Possibly from Danielle Bond," because my name is in your text messages with that associated phone number. So please consider useful and frequent, or the useful frequency and content. Now, I'm probably maybe scaring a little bit off, but like, so long as you're not sending a text every hour, you might be okay. My advice is, and we'll talk about this more in automated workflow sessions, but pacing it so it's like you send an email and a text at the same time. So that way, whichever way that they prefer to get their message, they check that. Then you follow it up with a phone call, maybe, 15, 20 minutes later. Then maybe day 2, you send them an email. Day 3, you send them a, follow-up text message. Just pace it. So that way you're not over annoying them. There's a way to track your SMS delivery rates in our report system. So make sure you do that. Personalize it. Also, please review this article on forbidden message categories. I don't think that most of you have any issues with this, but it is something where you should be aware that like you're not allowed to use certain like high risk financial services, third party lead generation, things like this. You really have to be aware of, and just kind of don't do that. I don't think you'll be in any of these categories, but it's worth a look. You got to also check out your TCPA, state regulations, and learn more about the evolving regulations there. Another requirement for compliance is identification, opt-out, and data privacy. So Radius already has auto stamps for sent by your account name, reply stop to unsubscribe on every message other than a direct reply thread. So that's already included for you, and we're HIPAA compliant, so your data is secure. And then I just added in learning a little bit more about, potential fines. So we've built these features to be in compliance with regulations, but compliance and appropriate messaging is your responsibility. So just please be aware of that as you're doing those text messages. And you're always welcome. If you're a client of ours, you can join a work session and I can workshop those text messages with you. I'm very happy to do so. Any questions on this? I see some, sorry. So there are a few questions. Christy asked something about the ACA. I'll loop back to that. Acacia, if you could just remind me to loop back to that question. At the end, to confirm if we're a basic user, our text will be coming from an unknown number to the client. Not necessarily. And I'll show you how you can create as a text only phone number. And Heather asks, if they stop, can they opt into receiving again? Yes, it's a little tricky. They can reply, subscribe back to it. So if they just only say subscribe and then hit send, it should allow that to happen. If it doesn't, they can try the word start, but it doesn't always work perfectly. So just tell them to text your number and say subscribe, reply. And then if for some reason that doesn't work, have them use the word start and reply. And you can always just also let us know if it didn't work. We would just need the person's name and phone number so we could research that for you. And where do you find the best practices guide for what's being covered? Right here on the help app. If you, I'll pop this link specifically into the chat. But here, if you look here on this, you just type in best practices into the article. You'll see I've got phone dialing best practices, which I'm about to cover next. SMS, like there's a lot of stuff. SMS setting up. So, and for Mary Beth's question, this SMS best practices setting this up, purchasing your own SMS number is covered here. I'll just briefly go through that. All you have to do is you go down here to settings, you go to phone dialer, you go to phone numbers, and then you're going to purchase a phone number by area code or whatever you want. Sorry, the number's found. Let me think of a more basic number. It's being a pain because I'm on a big demo. All right, well, you would find a phone number and then you would just purchase it down here. And then you would set it as the SMS default. If somebody calls you back though, it's not going to go through. So, but you will still say send all SMS using that phone number, save, and that's now your SMS phone number. It's SMS only if you're on the basic plan. No, and Mary Beth asks, but the number can't be your real number. That's correct. Unfortunately, the FCC does not allow for for masked phone numbers. So for cell phone masked numbers, it has to be a direct number. And very unfortunately, in the past few months, the cell phone carriers now are really cracking down on caller ID. So if you're using your own phone number to dial out of radius, you'll sometimes not be able to connect. And it's because the cell phone carrier won't accept the call because it's dialing from another number that's utilizing caller ID. So having a fully purchased phone number is really the best thing you can do now, which is infuriating to me because I have not been able to figure a way around this. You can re-verify your number, you can do all these things, but it's just the way that the cell phone carriers are operating, which is very frustrating to me. So you might want to consider upgrading to the AMS plan so that way you can have the full VoIP dialer for open enrollment. And I'm not usually like a salesy person, but it's honestly just going to make your life a lot easier if you have your phone numbers in one place. But it's unfortunate because we really like having the two options that used to both work for people's purposes. But the good thing is that one of the other compliance things that you have, especially if you do either health or Medicare, is that you need to have all of your call recordings tracked within, or you need to be able to track all your call recordings. So I can find somebody. Here we go. My call recordings all live here. I can even make notes on that call specifically. I can play, I can mute, I can download this file specifically. So it will help if all of your calls, both outbound and inbound, are all within this system. So that's one benefit of using the full AMS plan. Another thing that's great about the AMS plan is that you can create recordings So that way, if I am calling this phone number, I can have that playable disclaimer for the CMS disclaimer. So as I'm talking to the person, they're like, yeah, I want to do this call. And you're like, great, I just need to play this disclaimer. The disclaimer plays through. And then you just add in the little bit about I currently represent 5 carriers with 73 plans in your area. So that way they're aware of the exact county or region specific plan coverage that you have for them. The way that you would do this, you would launch the call. Oops, sorry. You would launch the call, and then it would show you the ability to play a disclaimer or to leave a voicemail drop. So leaving a voicemail drop would be something if you get their voicemail, and then you would, my best practice for that is you would personalize it by saying, hi, Jane, and then dropping in the rest of the message, which might be something like, I'm reaching out to my clients first this time of year to book our annual reviews before I start reaching out to some of our newer leads. I'd love to get you on the schedule in advance. I'll send you a text message with the link to book, or you can just give me a call back. Thanks so much. Blah, 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 right? So you don't have to say that whole thing every time. All you have to do is say, hi, Jane, and then drop that message in. Again, that's going to help you keep your phone calls relevant and specific. So that will set you apart as an agent simply by the fact that we have that little, voicemail drop, which is compliant because you could, if they did pick up, you were available for the call. So it still maintains that one-to-one contact that you need, and that one-to-one availability. But if they're not available for you, you don't have to waste your voice on a whole long spiel that you're going to just give to somebody else. I'm going to stop sharing for a second and switch over to a different browser because clearly that browser is being a little pain. And I want to show you how that dialing system works. So give me 1 second. Let's see if I can make this work. Fingers crossed, you guys. Okay. This person's file. I'm gonna hit launch. There we go.
Thanks for calling Radius. You're about to be transferred to one of our team members. Calls are recorded for quality assurance. Want a message like this? Ask us about our phone dialer options. Please leave a message and we'll get back to you in the order calls are received. For fast.
Oh, that's what I meant to do. But you can hear on that, or hopefully you saw on that when that voicemail was running, I had the option to either leave a voicemail drop, which I would have to wait for the beep, and then I would say, hi, Stan, and then drop the relevant voicemail. Or I would use the playable disclaimer if I got him on the phone and then he was like, yeah, no, I'm interested. And I'd be like, great, let me read you off the CMS disclaimer. The disclaimer plays and you go on with that call, and all of that would be captured in that call recording. So I do have, for people who are on the AMS plan, I recorded it in my voice for you. If you do want a CMS disclaimer. So, feel free to reach out to us if you want my voice, which is usually not this froggy. But yeah, I recorded that for you so you don't have to if you don't want to. So that's that. And then also you'll notice here on the AMS plan, you've got the availability for a phone book. So that way you could then connect a third party in easily. So you could just call that Aetna patient portal directly as you're on that call with them. And there's some new features. We'll cover that when I'm able to do the VoIP system session again. Okay. Pick this up and hang it up. Okay. See some questions. Holly asks, which plan has the call recording and how do we find out the price? So both plans have call recording. It's just a matter of if you want to have the basic plan only has outbound dialing, but then it does record those outbound calls for you. But for the additional inbound calling and then the playable disclaimers, along with like ring groups and phone books and all this other stuff, like a full VoIP solution, that's the AMS plan. And it's dependent on how many users you have. It's $78 per user. I'm sorry, for a single user, and then $2 per local line for phone numbers per month, $3 per toll free. So if you tell me your last name after this, you can direct message me if you want. Feel free to do so, and I will send you the exact number, but because it goes down, the pricing goes down per user once you hit 5 users. Just oh, thanks for filling in some information. And Keisha put some information in the chat too for everybody else who would like that. So the pricing is dependent on how many users you have, but for a single user on the AMS plan, it is $78 for the subscription per month. And then it's $2 per local line per month, $3 per toll free. And Holly asks, does it record automatically so long the call is from Radius Bob? Yes. So also, here's another really nice benefit. When you are using the AMS plan, you can set it up. It's the phone dialer. So Holly also asked about caller ID. So yeah, let me try to do one thing at a time. Sorry. Phone dialer and call queue. So click to call. This is where you just activate the call recording. Caller ID is here. You basically start with, purchasing the phone number first. And so Rashana asks about, getting the phone number. You could purchase one right here within this phone number section. If you have a number that you want to port into Radius, you would just send us a ticket in the help system and just ask us for the port instruction. And we can port a number in. I do not recommend porting over your own cell phone number. It would not be a good idea, but available for you. And then you'll set up the greetings and recordings. So this is where you can add in those attestations or just even like a, I'm not here, leave a message type recording. We also have ring groups. So this is also really helpful. If you want the phone call to come to Radius and your cell phone at the same time, you can actually create a ring group that has your own cell phone number as an external phone number, because so long as the call originates through Radius, it will get recorded in Radius, which is very helpful. So I just wanted to show you that as an option. And then we have IVRs if you want that, phone book, after hours. There's a whole lot of stuff that's within that. And the AMS plan is more than just the full VoIP system. It also has like customizable record types. It has enhanced reporting, commission matrices, like a whole slew of things. Yeah, so Laura asks if there are 2 people using the AMS plan. So Yeah, so that would be 156 per month. And for the 2 subscription, and it would be $2 per line per month. You just share the same phone number. It would be 158 per month. Heather asks for tips for making phone calls from her own cell phone. It can be glitchy on a mobile device. Yeah. You will need to go through our browser version of you'll have to go through the browser version on your cell phone to launch a call. And you can also receive calls on it, but you would need a good Wi-Fi connection because it is browser based. It's not going to be like a cellular type thing. So you would need a Wi-Fi connection at that point. You can I've done it on my cell without having Wi-Fi on, but you know, it might be better, I guess, just best practice if you have a strong Wi-Fi connection and you're using it that way. But you do need to log into Radius on your mobile device and then place that call. Yeah, I mean, I use my mobile device to make calls. I don't really leave it on to receive calls very often, but hopefully, you know, it helps. Yeah, Laura, the AMS version cuts down on dialer issues. The main issue that it cuts down on is the cell phone carriers blocking your phone call because you're using caller ID on the basic plan. That's really the only difference, is that you're using a stable purchased number that's dedicated to that. And then also we can then go through and do a business verification for that phone number for you and do all of these things that like can make it as legitimate as possible. So that way the cell phone carriers recognize that you're a valid entity before the call is transferred through. There are a lot of things that are outside of our control about the way the cell phone carriers handle all this stuff now. So we're just trying to keep up with it as fast as possible and make sure that those verifications are there. And then as you start dialing, another good best practice is, again, to make the phone calls as relevant as possible and never. So this is going into here. Let me let me exit this. I need to go into our best practices. Okay. So phone dialing best practices. So here again are some, like you need to have one-to-one consent, to dial people and all of that stuff. And I would highly recommend, I am not a lawyer. I do not know a whole lot of stuff. However, you need to talk to your lead vendors and make sure that they are providing like actual one-to-one leads. So that way this one-to-one consent that's required by CMS is actually implemented. And you have to talk to your lead vendors about this because it's an important rule. I've put little links here for you for each of these regulations. And oh, that's not supposed to just go to you, everyone in the meeting. Okay. So other best practices here, though. Do not hang up if the person doesn't answer. Leave a message. I know that there used to be that aggressive style of like, oh, they'll pick up if I ring them enough times. Well, they might, but you also might get your number blocked by that person's entire carrier because they're going to think you're a spam. So please leave a message and make it relevant. So if you hang up too many times in an hour, your number is going to be registered as likely spam. And basically the rule is if calls are under 6 seconds long, which is a hang up, or if it's just like, hey, call me back, you will literally get flagged as spam for that. If you've purchased or reported numbers into Radius, please submit a business verification via our help app. You will need an EIN, unfortunately. And you do need to either have a website or social media handle as part of those business verification requirements. You'll also want to register all of your numbers that you have with us with free caller registry. And there's a very intense article on that here, but that's going to really impact your scores for those phone numbers. Playable recordings, you're going to maintain your call recordings for the required minimum time period. Typically that's 10 years. But we provide that HIPAA compliant storage for the length of your subscription with us, which could exceed that 10-year requirement. So if you decide to close your account, make sure that you export your recordings and all data before you close, and that you now have a safe storage place for your call recordings before canceling your account with us. When you close your account, it will be deleted for data security within the month. So you have to have your files prior to canceling. Yeah, Mary Beth asks, is the consent for leads, not clients? And Acacia answered properly here. We recommend getting consent for both. The reason why is that there's just so many new CMS rules on that. And also even just for the TCPA, I feel like it's just better to just send out that, consent to contact as much as you can, which is why I've been working on that permission to contact for the Medicare purposes. And I truly hope we can launch that soon for you guys, just to make it more automated. Ron, if asks how do I get the messages to show if they've texted or emailed me? So if they've emailed you, you just have to check your email account. However, I'm sure you can, get a pop-up notification on your email. But as far as in Radius, you can check in a few places. One, you can go into messages and SMS to see the message history, but you can also go into account my information and go to notifications and send SMS replies to my cell phone. And that way you can get a cell phone notification. You just need to make sure your cell phone number is in the cell phone field. So that way it goes there. And that's what at the beginning of all of this, as I was talking through text messages, I said, make sure you don't test with your own cell phone number. And this is the reason why, because then if you're putting your cell phone number in here as the agent and you're sending the SMS replies to your cell phone, but then you also have yourself in as a client or a lead, then it's not going to know that your cell phone carrier is going to think you're spamming yourself. So you really can't test with your own cell phone number if you do use this option of getting notifications via your cell phone. Acacia, have I missed anything?
Let me scroll up. I do think there was one. I'm trying to put the answers in there so everyone can see them too.
Thanks.
Mary Beth asked if I purchased the number, will the caller ID identify to me?
Yeah, if you purchase the number, we do need to do like the whole business verification process and the CNAME for your name to show up. But when you do the best practice of sending them an email and or a text message prior to calling them, it will show potentially Mary Beth Biffle because of the fact that you've sent it into a different part of their system, even though it's not in their contacts. So, yeah. So if you've done the business verification, there's we can do the CNAME database registration for you. It's basically a database that tells the cell phone carrier who you guys are, what your business name is, etc. Hopefully that carrier will show that, but that's why you like the cell phone carriers are just so crazy right now that I always just recommend make sure you send an email, and if they've opted in for text messaging, just send that out so that way you make sure that you have your name and phone number in their system in their cell phone before you call them. It will work on landlines. Like if we do the CNAME verification for you, landlines will always show whatever that is. Cell phone carriers are just awful. So, you know, and then, oh, the other thing I remember we were asking about before, there's somebody asking about setting up that ACA that you wanted to enable that. And I'll send you an article link because we do need to wrap up soon. But you go to settings and then you go to email, columns, calendar, and other, edit. You scroll down and you enable the consent forms here. And if you don't see the email templates, just send us a ticket in the help app and let us know. Let me grab that article for you. Irmal asks, will the training for yesterday be rescheduled? Absolutely. I don't know exactly when yet because the schedule is so crazy. And clearly I'm still pretty sick. But I promise that will get done because it's a very important one, and it goes into more depth on some of those VoIP the VoIP needs that we discussed today. So you'll get more detail on that. And I'll send an email to everybody that like I sent around an email to everybody yesterday saying that I needed to cancel it. So I'll send to that same email list, but I'll also put it into the help app. So anything else before we wrap up? Think I caught everything.
Hey, Danielle,
Yeah. Hi,
can I
Robbie.
ask you to go back to one of your dummy clients, Jane Smith? I just had a quick question.
Sure. Give me a sec. Another little thing that some people don't know is this little people icon shows who you've viewed last. Oh, I don't know why Jane's not in there, but usually, oh, because I started a new session. That's why. But,
All right. You see where you have on the notes and everything, how do you get that over 65 intake script and call script? So where do you go and put that in there?
oh, yeah. That's a little bit of a larger thing for
Okay.
through, but you can, if you wanted to. This is in the coverage types and custom data fields video, but and I think that I did a training on it on the help app. But basically, if you wanted to create a custom tab, you could create a custom tab that has like a call script for you.
Got it. Okay, I see it here.
Yeah.
Okay. Appreciate
Yeah.
it. Appreciate it. Thank
Let me
you.
see if I can find something on this. Anything else that I missed, Acacia?
I have a question, Danielle.
Sure, David. How can I help?
Well, first off, I hope you feel better. I've had COVID before, so
I've never, and I hate it.
I'm sorry to hear that. But I have a business partner.
Uh-huh.
My question is, do we have to have two separate numbers, or can we have one and use the system, and we can both use the system at the same time and
You-
record
Mhm.
calls?
Yeah, you don't need to have different phone numbers, but you would need to have two seats. So you do need to have individual seats. It's not only just the way that we do pricing, but it's also the way that it allows for the proper auditing trail. That's a
Okay.
HIPAA requirement. So 2 seats and you can share the same phone number.
So what would be the extra cost for another seat, do you know?
Well, if you're on the basic plan, that would be another $43. So that would bring you to 86. If you want to go to the AMS plan to purchase a phone number that you can both use, that would be 156 for 2 users and then $2 for that phone number. And for that phone number, you could also create like an ID card where it says press 1 for David, press 2 for Danielle.
Oh, okay.
So
Well, I appreciate you, so.
absolutely. All right, hopefully I'll find that I know I did a long time ago a call script thing. If I can find it, I'll let you know. But yeah, well, that needs to be a question for another day, unfortunately.
We do have one more that I may have missed it when I was typing, but
Yeah.
Laura said, I've come across some clients that have requested to unsubscribe from an auto email, but I was not notified. Is there a notification I need to set up?
You don't get notified, but it's you can still directly email them. And if they've unsubscribed, you'll see a little right underneath your email, it'll say that they unsubscribed right there. And you can also do an unsubscribe to report. So if you go here and you just want to go for like clients and leads, then you go down here for unsubscribed, yes, display, and then it'll show you. But that's just for like everybody. So, but you don't get like an official notification that they've unsubscribed. Yeah, so so Laura, you don't even need to worry about respecting their wishes because they just won't be able to get any mass emails or automated emails. If they've unsubscribed, they just don't get them. But you can still email them directly if it was like something where so some clients like they're like, oh, this is too many emails, I hate this. You could then have it so that way you can email them and be like, hey, I noticed that your your plan is expiring, blah blah blah. So yeah, so you don't need to worry about taking their email out unless it's something where like I would say don't take it out because you probably need to track the fact that they've unsubscribed. Kayla gets a daily email saying there may be an issue with your email. That just means that you need to reconnect it. So if you're the account owner, you go down to settings, you go to my information, and then you go to if you're the account owner, you go to settings, you go to email, columns, calendar, and other. You scroll down here, you remove that access, and then you add it back in. Or if you're an agent, you go to account my information, email, and you do the same thing. You would just set up your SMTP there. But if you're the account owner, only do it in the settings section. Agents do it or agents and other admins do it in account my information. And we can help you on the help app with that if you have any further question on it. Okay, everybody. Well, I hope this was helpful and informative. Please feel free to write me with any feedback. Clearly a little bit under the weather, and I might not have hit everything that we should have hit, but I feel like I got it for at least this topic. And we'll have more specifics as far as real use cases within the client work sessions next week. So if you're an active subscriber with us, please come to that with your specific needs and I can make sure to assist with that and get the work done. All right, people, I appreciate you and I will talk to you all soon. Feel free, and also feel free to contact us in the help app for any specific needs that you have. Thank you.